the story of my maturation into Catholicism. I've been thinking about this a lot in the terms a Catholic revert doesn't really apply to me because I never believed and then stopped believing. I'm not a convert because I really didn't switch beliefs. I matured into it. So I was baptized Catholic because my mother was raised Catholic, but she was so poorly catechized, she probably understands less than just a random tribesman in an uncontacted Amazonian tribe like that. She knows less, and she has since left the church and joined just a non-denominational Protestant slop church. And my dad, he's atheist, and I guess his father is atheist. So we never went to church. I knew nothing about religion or Catholicism. I grew up secular. And the first experience I ever had with Catholicism at all is because I was a very good tennis player growing up, competitive tennis, and I went to a podunk middle school, and there was no one to play tennis with against in that league they played in. So my parents sent me to a Catholic high school so that I could play with other private school kids. And I knew nothing. I didn't even get the first communion. I just was baptized and that was it. But my first experience with any Catholic whatsoever that I can recall was first semester, freshman year of high school. First period was a Latin class, and there was like 6 students in the class, and that course was taught by a Eastern Catholic bishop, and it was his only year ever teaching high school. He taught high school Latin. So, and I really liked the man. And I had thought about him for 20 years. And throughout high school, I ended up just doing the private tutoring briefly for the first communion my sophomore year, just to be able to get communion and fit into the other kids. But it was a modernist high school education, and just none of it. I just didn't really believe. And I deliberately chose not to be confirmed because I knew I wasn't a true believer, and it seemed like something that I should do later in life, when I was sincere about it. In hindsight, that was pretty wise of me as a teenager. Well, I'm a scientist, and I obsessively studied. I was determined to be a doctor or a dentist, and so I took the most brutal science classes you could take in undergrad, biology and chemistry and physics, and I ended up getting a master's degree in the biomedical sciences to get into dental school. Well, it's a long story. That's a story for a different one. But my final semester, after passing every dental school class and the boards and everything, I got railroaded out on a technicality. So that was very devastating, and basically I had my future robbed from me and all my past work. Well, the strongest evidence I have that was very unjust was that the next year I got accepted into medical school, podiatry school, because I applied too late to even have a chance at medical school. But podiatry school let me in. So I ended up getting accepted, and that was my third time basically taking those courses, the basic sciences of medicine. I was too burned out to do it 3 times, because I did the first time, I passed the courses in grad school, then again dental school, and I did them again that first year, and I was too burned out, so I wasn't a doctor. So, but without the degree, I was, I'm a scientist. I mean, you pass those first 2 classes of med school, 3 times, it makes you real good at the primary sciences. So I ended up forging a career basically in the bodybuilding world and practicing medicine that way. And I'm also just I compare myself to kind of like the fictional character in Back to the Future, Doc Emmett Brown, where I do all sorts of things. And I'm not really known to the public. Like, I'm known in the bodybuilding community, which I call ergogenic medicine, but it seems weird having to justify who I am to the general public. They don't need to know what I do. If they don't believe me I'm a scientist, well, they can be Thomas the Doubter. I don't need to justify myself to them, but I'm a scientist. Well, so as a scientist, a good one, that was holding me back from religion and Christianity was basically the concept of angels and demons. That just seemed completely absurd to me, and I didn't really investigate it. I was busy training and studying to be a scientist, and probably the only thing that could convince me would be actually to observe and experiment demons. That was what it would take, and God works in mysterious ways, and he showed that to me. So over the course of, my 20-year science career, I witnessed the faces of multiple people who I now realize were living in tremendous turmoil in sin. And I saw their faces morph momentarily into a demon face. Multiple people, multiple times. And I have gotten deep into psychedelics, and strangely, it wasn't hallucinations because I was sober every single time that this happened. And it happened in multiple people. It's either a narcissist or they're an abuse victim of narcissism. So that made me start realizing, like, okay, it wasn't Jesus that I became convinced of first. It was that demons are real. Demons are real, and I got the scientific proof I needed. I observed it with my own eyes multiple times in different experiments, years apart, in conditions that I became convinced the demons are real. Well, that sent me down the rabbit hole. That's when I learned, Jesus was an exorcism. And it's said that 1/3 of the Bible is basically stories of his exorcisms and miracles. Well, okay. Well, there was pretty much, I was baptized Catholic, and to me, I follow the saying of you should bloom where you're planted. And I think that's the best thing my parents ever did for me, was baptizing me into the Catholic Church. And I viewed it as providential that basically my discernment was between the traditional Latin Mass, traditionalism, because I despise modernism. I didn't have a word for modernism until very recently. I despise modernism. So it was between the Latin Rite, the traditional Latin Mass, or the Eastern Rite. And I had been thinking about Bishop Botin, the eparch of the Romanian Greek Catholic Church in the United States. For 20 years, I've been thinking about this man. And last year in 2025, I had gone to one traditional Latin Mass, and I had been studying and talking to some Catholic friends of mine, and I was being stubborn and holding up and kind of studying, just not quite ready to committing myself to going to church yet, which I didn't know it was a sin. I didn't know any of that. I was still learning. I was very poorly catechized. And then Great Holy Week 2026, not to say compulsion, but just the call by the Holy Spirit to go was so overwhelming that I had no choice. In weeks leading up to that, I was under demonic attack. So probably 6 Sundays in a row, I had tried to go to church, and all of a sudden I couldn't find my tie. My car keys would be missing. I got bad, horrific diarrhea. Something would happen that I would make an excuse not to go. Well, on Holy Thursday, 2026, there was nothing that could have stopped me from going. And I ended up going to the Cathedral of Bishop Botin. And I was weeping during that. It was it. I got called. I got called. And ever since then, I went to service the next day on Good Friday, then Holy Saturday, and then Pascha on Easter. I've gone to church almost every day since. And in that time, I have been dutifully and obsessively studying Catholicism with the same intensity that I put towards science and medicine for years. And I'm sure this was God's plan, because I don't know how I could have studied this intensely while I was trained to be a scientist, because I'm putting in, all day long. All day long, I'm either reading or studying or watching podcasts or talking to people about it. I can't get enough of it. And actually, I took a mid-career break from being a self-employed scientist, and I now have been volunteering. I've been going to the monastery with the nuns almost every day, at least for Vespers or Matins. And been building a chapel at the Shrine of Mary Opich in the one next door. I've been renovating my local church. So that's how I matured into Catholicism. And I can make some other stories to where I've had a lot of evidence ever since then. I've seen even more demonic activity. I've had some miracles happen. There's been a lot of things that have just keep pushing me towards faith that this is correct. This is the truth. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. And at this point, that's new. That's still in the first year. I haven't even been chrismated yet into the Byzantine Rite. I'm going to do that at the 1-year anniversary to when the Holy Spirit called me. So that'd be next Holy Thursday next in 2027. But at this point, if I had to choose, if someone threatened to torture and kill me or renounce my Catholic faith, the only thing I would do would be to pray to Jesus to give me the strength to endure that torture, because I'm Catholic and I believe, and I'm devoting my life to God the best I can in serving him.